Billionaire finds a waitress's daughter hiding to eat leftovers. His reaction will shock you. But when he discovers the truth behind her desperation, his entire world. Subscribe now, or this might be our last meeting. Follow, comment, and share to stay connected. Don't miss out. Let's dive in. The rain hammered against the grease-stained windows of the Sunrise Diner as Mariana Reyes wiped down the last table of her shift. Her movements were automatic after 3 years of this. Clockwork precision born from necessity, not passion. Outside, the street had turned into a river of shadows and reflected neon, the kind of night that made people hurry past without looking up. The bell above the door chimed. Mariana didn't need to turn around to know who'd entered. The sudden tension in the air, the way Sarah's smile went brittle at the hostess stand, it could only mean one person. Liam Davenport strode through the diner like he owned it, which technically his investment portfolio probably did. "Table for one," he said, his voice clipped and impatient. Mariana grabbed her notepad, steadying her breath. At 27, she'd perfected the art of invisibility, of serving the wealthy without really being seen. She approached his booth with professional courtesy, keeping her eyes just below his. "Good evening, sir. What can I get you?" Liam barely glanced up from his phone. "Burger, rare, coffee, black." Each word was a command, not a request. "Of course." Mariana scribbled the order, acutely aware of Derek Holt watching from the kitchen doorway. Her ex-fiancé's presence always felt like ice water down her spine, calculated, cruel, waiting for her to slip. She delivered Liam's meal without incident. He ate with the same impatient efficiency he did everything else, signed the check without looking at her, and left a 20% tip that felt more like protocol than generosity. The side door clicked shut behind him. Mariana exhaled. One more shift survived. Then she heard the scraping sound. Through the kitchen window, she caught movement near the dumpsters, small, furtive. Her heart dropped. No, please no. Outside, Liam had paused by his car, keys in hand, when he heard it too. A soft rustling, like an animal foraging. He turned, irritation flickering across his features. The alley was dark, slick with rain, and he should have just gotten in his car and left. Instead, he walked toward the sound. Between two industrial dumpsters, illuminated by a flickering security light, a little girl sat curled against the wet brick wall. She was maybe 7, wearing a thin jacket that did nothing against the cold. In her small hands was a napkin wrapped around food scraps, the leftovers from his plate, still bearing the impression of his fork. Liam froze. The girl looked up, her eyes going wide with terror. She scrambled backward, dropping the napkin, trying to disappear into the shadows. "Hey," Liam said, his voice softer than it had been all evening. He crouched down, keeping his distance. "Why are you out here alone?" Sophia's lips trembled. She tried to hide her face behind her hands, but her thin shoulders shook with silent sobs. "Sophia!" Mariana came running, her apron still tied around her waist, panic written across her face. She dropped to her knees and pulled her daughter against her chest, protective and fierce in a way that made something twist in Liam's gut. "I'm sorry," Mariana gasped, her eyes meeting his for the first time all evening. She was waiting for me to finish." "Waiting in the garbage?" Derek's voice cut through the rain like a blade. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his expression a perfect mask of righteous concern. "This is exactly what I've been talking about, Mr. Davenport. She uses that child to manipulate clients, playing the poverty card for sympathy tips. That's not..." Mariana's voice cracked. "She was hungry. The shift ran late and she was eating trash." Derek stepped closer, his polished shoes splashing through puddles. "Neglect, possibly fraud. I think we should call social services." "No." Sophia's small voice was barely audible, but it cut through everything else. She clutched her mother's arm, trembling. Liam looked between them, Derek's calculated concern, Mariana's desperate dignity, and the little girl whose only crime was being hungry. Something shifted in his chest, like ice cracking after a long winter. For the first time in 3 years, since his wife had died and left him hollow, Liam Davenport actually saw someone, and what he saw was truth in their pain. Liam stood motionless in the rain, watching Mariana shield her daughter like she was protecting her from the whole world. The water soaked through his $1,500 suit, but he couldn't seem to move. There was something about the fierce desperation in Mariana's eyes, the way she held Sophia against her chest. It reminded him of instincts he'd thought died with his wife. "She was just hungry," Mariana said, her voice steadier now despite the way her hands trembled. My shift ran over. She was supposed to wait inside, but she stopped, swallowing hard. She didn't want to bother anyone. Bother anyone? Derek laughed, sharp and ugly. She was scavenging from the dumpsters like a raccoon. This is negligence, Mr. Davenport. I've been documenting incidents like this for weeks. We should call the police. Child Services needs to know. That's enough. Liam's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. Derek's mouth snapped shut, though his eyes flashed with barely concealed anger. Liam turned his attention to Mariana. Is she hurt? No, Mariana whispered. She's fine. We're fine. I apologize for any inconvenience. Stop apologizing. The words came out harsher than he intended. He softened his tone. I'm asking if your daughter is okay. Sophia peeked out from behind her mother's shoulder, her dark eyes still glistening with tears. Thank you for the food, mister, she said in a voice barely above a whisper. It was really good. The simple gratitude hit Liam like a physical blow. His own son was 7, the same age, probably the same shoe size. He thought of Timothy safe at home with his grandmother, well-fed and warm, never having to hide behind dumpsters or eat someone else's leftovers. His throat tightened. Mariana. Derek's voice had taken on a warning edge. Clock out, now, and take her home before this gets worse. Mariana nodded quickly, still avoiding direct eye contact with anyone. She stood, pulling Sophia up with her, maintaining that same careful dignity, even though she was soaked and shaking. Thank you for your understanding, Mr. Davenport. It won't happen again. She turned to leave, but Liam found himself speaking before he could think better of it. Do you have somewhere to stay tonight? The storm's getting worse. Mariana's spine straightened. We're fine. Thank you. It was a lie. He could hear it in the way her voice went flat, see it in how she held her daughter just a fraction too tightly. She was protecting her privacy the only way she knew how, by keeping everyone at arm's length. Of course, he said, stepping back to let them pass. As Mariana hurried away, pulling Sophia close, Derek moved beside Liam. I apologize for the scene. I've been trying to handle the situation quietly, but she's been using that child to... Stop talking. Derek blinked. Excuse me? Liam watched Mariana disappear around the corner, her cheap sneakers splashing through puddles, her thin jacket doing nothing against the downpour. He pressed his hand against his chest, feeling something crack open inside, something he'd kept frozen for 3 long years. The coldness he'd wrapped around himself like armor was giving way, replaced by something uncomfortable and insistent. Guilt. Empathy. The terrible recognition that he'd just watched a woman choose dignity over help, because she'd learned that accepting kindness always came with a price. Derek was still talking, something about documentation and policies, but Liam wasn't listening anymore. He was thinking about a little girl eating garbage in the rain, thanking him for leftovers. He was thinking about truth hidden in plain sight. And he was thinking that maybe, for the first time since his wife died, he needed to actually see what was right in front of him. The rain continued to fall, but something had shifted. Liam Davenport walked to his car with his heart hammering in his chest, knowing that nothing would be the same after tonight. Liam told himself he was just getting coffee. The Sunrise Diner looked different in morning light, less desperate, though the cracked vinyl booths and yellowing menus told the same story of decline. He spotted Mariana immediately, moving through the breakfast rush with practiced efficiency that seemed almost choreographed. Just coffee, he said when she approached, notepad ready. Of course, Mr. Davenport. Her voice was polite, distant, professional armor back in place. He watched her work while pretending to check his phone. The diner was chaos, orders backing up, the cook shouting, customers getting impatient. But Mariana moved through it all with an unusual calm. She reorganized the ticket system with a few quick adjustments, redirected waitresses with quiet efficiency, and somehow kept 3 difficult tables happy simultaneously. It was the kind of management he'd seen in corporate settings, not greasy diners. In the corner booth, Sophia sat with a box of crayons, drawing on paper napkins. She was clean this morning, her hair neatly braided, wearing clothes that were worn but carefully maintained. She looked up and gave Liam a shy wave. He found himself waving back. Mariana returned with his coffee, setting it down without meeting his eyes. Anything else, sir? Actually, he was about to ask about last night when Derek emerged from the back office, a folder tucked under his arm and a concerned expression that looked rehearsed. Mr. Davenport, perfect timing. Derek spread papers across the counter with theatrical precision. I need to show you something troubling. There are significant discrepancies in yesterday's cash deposits. Liam glanced at the reports. The numbers were crude, almost insultingly so, with transactions that made no mathematical sense. These calculations are wrong. Exactly. Derek's voice carried just far enough for nearby customers to hear, and they're all linked to Mariana's register. I've been patient, but this pattern of financial irregularities... Wait, Liam pulled the papers closer, his analytical mind automatically checking the figures. These transactions show someone withdrawing cash before processing credit cards. That's not how POS systems work. The sequence is backwards. Derek's confident expression faltered for just a moment. Well, she must have found a way to. And this timestamp. Liam tapped another entry. Shows a refund processed at 3:47 a.m. According to your own schedule posted on the wall, the diner closes at midnight. System glitch, probably. Convenient. Liam's eyes narrowed. Very convenient that all these glitches point to the same person. Mariana stood frozen near the coffee station, her face pale. She didn't defend herself, didn't argue. She just lowered her head, hands clasped tightly together, and Liam recognized the posture, someone who'd learned that fighting back only made things worse. The humiliation in her silence made his chest tighten. "Mommy?" Sophia's small voice cut through the tension. She'd left her booth and now stood beside her mother, taking Mariana's hand. She looked up at Liam with those serious dark eyes. People don't know who she really is, but she's really smart. She used to help lots of people. Sophia. Mariana's whisper was sharp with warning. Not now, but it's true. Go finish your drawing. Mariana's voice was gentle but firm, and Sophia reluctantly retreated to her booth. Derek gathered his papers, clearly preparing for another attack, but Liam held up his hand. I'll review these personally. Send me the raw data files from the system. Of course, but I should warn you. Raw files. Today. Liam's tone left no room for argument. As Derek retreated, Liam found himself studying Mariana again. She'd gone back to work, moving efficiently between tables, but there was something defeated in her posture now. Something broken. Who are you really? The question burned in his mind. The bell above the door chimed and Liam's mother swept in wearing Chanel and concern in equal measure. Nora Davenport had a gift for reading people, and her sharp eyes immediately found Mariana. Mom, what are you doing here? Timothy told me you've been distracted. Nora settled into the booth across from him, watching Mariana refill coffee at a nearby table. Now I see why. It's not. That woman doesn't belong here. Nora's voice was soft but certain. Look at her hands when she writes orders. Look at how she calculates tips in her head. Look at her posture. She turned to her son. That's not a career waitress, Liam. That's someone hiding. Liam's jaw tightened because his mother was right. He'd felt it since last night, the disconnect between who Mariana appeared to be and who she actually was. And you know it, Nora added gently. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Mariana approached to refill their coffee, and Nora smiled warmly at her. Thank you, dear. You're very gracious. Just doing my job, ma'am. But something flickered in Mariana's eyes. Surprise, maybe, at being treated like a person instead of furniture. After she left, Nora touched her son's hand. That young woman is in the wrong place, and I think you need to find out why. 3 days later, Liam found himself back at the diner. Again. He was starting to feel like a stalker, but he couldn't shake the growing certainty that something was deeply wrong. This time he watched Mariana help an elderly couple with their order. The man was hard of hearing. The woman had specific dietary restrictions, and they were both flustered by the menu. Mariana handled it with a precision that went beyond good service. She automatically calculated nutritional adjustments, suggested modifications using technical terminology, and explained options with the patience of someone who'd once done much more complex work. You seem to know a lot about food science, Liam said when she brought his meal. Mariana's body went rigid. Just experience. What kind of experience? The kind that pays minimum wage plus tips. Her smile was polite and utterly empty. Will that be all? He wanted to push, but Derek materialized like a bad omen, carrying another folder. This one was thicker, more official-looking, with confidential stamped across the front. Mr. Davenport, I'm sorry to interrupt your meal, but this can't wait. Derek's voice was grave. I've discovered something serious about Mariana's background. Mariana's face drained of color. She has a criminal record, Derek continued, loud enough for several tables to hear. Fraud, embezzlement, from her previous employer, a startup she helped destroy. I have court documents, police reports. That's not. Mariana's voice broke. Those charges were dropped. The case was dismissed. After you fled the state. Derek's accusation hung in the air like poison. Liam opened the folder, scanning legal documents that looked legitimate but felt wrong. The accusations were serious: theft of intellectual property, financial fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. But the timeline was strange, the evidence circumstantial, and something about Derek's eagerness to present this information felt orchestrated. Mommy didn't do anything wrong, Sophia said suddenly. She'd appeared at the edge of their conversation, clutching one of her drawings. She has papers at home that prove it. Important papers she keeps safe. Mariana's eyes went wide with panic. Sophia, that's enough. But you said they show the truth. I said go wait in the booth, now. The sharpness in Mariana's voice made Sophia's eyes fill with tears, but she obeyed. Derek leaned forward, sensing blood in the water. What papers, Mariana? Something you've been hiding from authorities. Nothing. She's 7. She doesn't understand. Mariana was backing away, her professional composure finally cracking. Please, I need to get back to work. Actually, Derek said smoothly, I think this requires immediate administrative action. I'll handle it. Liam closed the folder, his mind racing. The inconsistencies were piling up, the backward POS reports, these 2 convenient legal documents, and now a 7-year-old mentioning evidence her mother kept hidden. Thunder rumbled outside as another storm rolled in. It's going to be bad tonight, Liam said, watching Mariana. Let me drive you and your daughter home. We can talk. No. And the word was final. Thank you, but no. She walked away before he could argue, and Liam was left holding a folder full of accusations that didn't quite add up. That evening, Nora visited him at his penthouse. She found him at his laptop, running searches on Mariana Reyes. Tell me what you found, she said, setting down her purse. Not much. It's like she barely exists before 3 years ago. He pulled up another screen. But I found fragments, a dissolved startup called Green Cycle Innovations, sustainable food technology, co-founded by someone named M. Reyes. The company imploded amid fraud allegations, but the details are scrubbed clean. Someone worked hard to erase her, Nora observed, or to bury the truth. Liam's jaw tightened. There's a difference. Nora studied her son's profile, seeing something she hadn't seen since before his wife died, engaged determination. You're going to help her. I'm going to find out what really happened. He looked at his mother. You said her expression reminds you of someone wounded unjustly. What did you mean? I mean, Nora said softly, that I've seen that look before. In women who've been gaslit, manipulated, systematically destroyed by someone they trusted. She's not hiding from justice, Liam. She's hiding from whoever did this to her. The rain hammered against the windows 30 stories up. Down below, Mariana was probably in her cramped apartment with her daughter, pretending everything was fine. The seed of doubt that had been planted 3 days ago had grown into something stronger, a burning need to know the truth. Not just about the accusations or the stolen company, but about the woman who'd sacrificed everything to protect her child. Liam opened a new search window, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. Whatever had been buried, he was going to dig it up. And he suspected Derek Holt wasn't going to like what he found. Derek Holt had built his career on recognizing threats before they became problems, and Liam Davenport's repeated visits to the diner were definitely a problem. He worked quickly, methodically. The POS system was old enough to be vulnerable, and Derek had administrative access. Within an hour, he'd planted a trail of fabricated transactions, small withdrawals, voided sales, cash discrepancies, all time-stamped to Mariana's shifts. The beauty of it was the pattern, subtle enough to seem real, damning enough to be undeniable. But that wasn't enough. Not when he'd seen the way Liam looked at her. Derek composed 3 anonymous emails from a burner account, each one carefully crafted to sound like a concerned employee. She uses her daughter to manipulate wealthy customers. One read, brings the kid during her shifts, lets her look hungry and pitiful. Classic emotional manipulation for bigger tips. He hit send and felt a familiar rush of satisfaction. This was what he was good at, controlling narratives, shaping perceptions, staying 3 steps ahead. Mariana. His voice was pleasant as he appeared in the doorway to the storage room. A word? She looked up from inventory sheets, wariness flickering across her face. I'm in the middle of now. The pleasantness evaporated. Mariana followed him into the cramped storage room, the door clicking shut behind them. Derek leaned against a stack of boxes, studying her with the same calculating expression she'd once mistaken for love. "You've been getting attention lately," he said. "From Mr. Davenport. He's just a customer." "Don't." Derek's voice was soft, dangerous. "Don't insult my intelligence. I see how he watches you, how he keeps coming back. And you know what's going to happen when he starts asking real questions about your past?" Mariana's hands clenched at her sides. "There's nothing to find." "Oh, but there is." Derek pulled out his phone, showing her the fabricated POS reports. "There's theft, there's fraud, there's a pattern of criminal behavior that's about to come to light. Again, you're doing this." Her voice shook, just like before. I'm protecting this establishment from a documented criminal." His smile was cold. "Unless, of course, you'd like to make this easier on everyone. Quit quietly. Take your daughter. Disappear like you should have stayed, disappeared." "No." The word came out stronger than she felt. "I've done nothing wrong. I won't run again." Derek's expression hardened. "Then I'll destroy you. Again. Only this time, I'll make sure you lose that little girl too. Neglect, endangerment, fraudulent behavior while responsible for a minor." He leaned closer. "How long do you think social services will let you keep her?" Mariana's face went white, but she held her ground. "Get away from me. This is your last warning, Mariana. Disappear, or I'll bury you so deep you'll never crawl back out." She pushed past him, her heart hammering, and nearly ran straight into Liam in the hallway. "Mr. Davenport, we need to talk." His face was set in hard lines, and he was holding printouts of the anonymous emails. "These accusations are serious. Using your daughter as..." "That's not true." But even as she said it, she saw the doubt in his eyes, saw him remembering that first night, Sophia behind the dumpsters. "Then explain the financial discrepancies. Explain why every time I dig into your background, I find more problems." They'd moved into the main dining area now. The morning rush had started and customers were watching. Sarah stood frozen by the register. Other waitresses whispered behind their hands. "I can't," Mariana said quietly. "I can't explain anything without..." She stopped, aware of how guilty silence sounded. "Without what?" Liam's voice carried the weight of someone used to getting answers. "I've given you chances to be honest. I've tried to help. But all I'm finding are lies and theft and..." "You don't know anything about what happened to me?" The words burst out before she could stop them. "You don't know what he did, what he took, how he destroyed everything I..." Her voice broke. Behind the counter she caught a glimpse of Sophia's face, streaked with tears, watching her mother be humiliated again. That broke her. "Come on, baby." Mariana held out her hand, and Sophia ran to her. "We're leaving." "Mariana," Liam started, but she was already moving toward the door. "Thank you for the opportunity, but I quit." Her voice was steady, even though her world was collapsing again. Effective immediately. The rain hit them the moment they stepped outside, heavy, cold, soaking through their clothes in seconds. Mariana didn't care. She just held Sophia's hand and walked, her daughter's quiet sobs matching the rhythm of the downpour. Inside the diner, Liam stood paralyzed, watching them disappear into the storm. The shame hit him like a physical blow, the realization that he'd done exactly what he'd sworn never to do again. He'd judged without listening, condemned without understanding, just like he'd done with his wife when she'd tried to tell him about her depression, when she'd needed him to hear her instead of fix her. "You're doing it again." He turned to find his mother standing in the doorway, her eyes sad and knowing. "Doing what?" "What you did to Catherine." Nora's voice was gentle but firm. "You're so certain you know the truth that you're not actually listening. You accuse that young woman in front of everyone based on anonymous emails and a man who clearly has an agenda." Liam's throat tightened. The evidence was handed to you on a silver platter. Doesn't that seem convenient?" Nora touched his arm. "Your wife died believing you thought she was weak. Don't let another woman walk away thinking you believe she's guilty." The weight of those words crushed him. Liam looked at the rain-soaked street where Mariana had vanished, then at Derek watching from the kitchen with barely concealed satisfaction. "I need to fix this," he said quietly. "Then do it right this time," Nora replied. "Find the real truth before it's too late." Liam spent that night in his home office. The anonymous emails and Derek's reports spread across his desk. At 2 a.m., fueled by coffee and guilt, he started finding the cracks. The POS timestamps were wrong, transactions logged during impossible time windows. The anonymous emails all used the same IP routing pattern. The court documents Derek had provided were missing case numbers and official seals. Everything was too perfect, too convenient, too designed to make Mariana look guilty without actually proving anything concrete. He called his head of accounting at 6 a.m. "I need you to pull the raw data from the Sunrise Diner POS system, not the reports, the actual transaction logs." 2 hours later, his accountant called back. "Mr. Davenport, these files have been altered. Someone with administrative access modified them within the last 72 hours. Liam's jaw clenched. "Can you tell who?" The access logs showed Derek Holt's credentials. That afternoon, Liam returned to the diner to find a stranger asking questions at the counter, mid-40s, wearing a rumpled jacket, with the weary determination of someone who'd seen too much. "I'm looking for Mariana Reyes," the man said. "Is she working today?" "She's not here." Liam approached, instincts on alert. "Who's asking?" "Daniel Miller." The man extended his hand. "Old friend. Haven't been able to reach her cell. She quit yesterday." Daniel's face darkened. "Derek got to her again, didn't he?" "Again?" Liam's pulse quickened. "You know about Derek Holt? Know about him?" Daniel laughed bitterly. "I've been investigating that bastard for 3 years. He's the reason Mariana lost everything." He studied Liam carefully. "You're Davenport. She mentioned you were asking questions. Tell me what happened to her." They sat in a booth and Daniel laid out the truth. Mariana hadn't been a waitress 3 years ago. She'd been a brilliant food scientist, co-founder of Green Cycle Innovations, developing breakthrough technology for converting food waste into nutritional supplements. Derek had been her fiancé and business partner. He wanted control, Daniel said. When she refused to sign over majority shares, he systematically destroyed her, forged financial documents, altered her research to make it look like she'd stolen his work, then reported her for fraud when she tried to defend herself. Why didn't she fight back? She tried, but Derek had money, connections, and a legal team that buried her. By the time she realized she was pregnant and alone, fighting meant losing her daughter. Daniel's voice was heavy. So she ran, changed her name slightly, dropped off the grid, and spent 3 years hiding in plain sight. Liam felt sick. The documents Derek showed me, fabricated, just like before. Daniel pulled out a flash drive. "I've been collecting evidence, but I need the original research files. Mariana kept copies. She told me she hid them somewhere safe, but she wouldn't say where." Liam remembered Sophia's words. "She has papers at home that prove it." "The diner," he said suddenly. "She'd hide them somewhere she could watch them, somewhere Derek wouldn't think to look." At midnight, Liam used his master key to enter the closed diner. He felt like a criminal, but the urgency drove him forward. The storage room was cluttered with supplies and old equipment. He searched methodically, looking for anywhere someone might hide documents. Behind a loose panel in the wall, he found it, a weatherproof box containing folders thick with papers. His hands trembled as he opened the first one. Research notes in Mariana's handwriting, original patents with her signature, email chains showing Derek's manipulation, bank records proving he'd siphoned funds while blaming her. Everything was there, meticulously documented, waiting for the day she might finally be strong enough to use it. The formulas themselves were brilliant, complex bioprocessing equations that would revolutionize waste management. This wasn't just stolen work. This was genius being suppressed because someone wanted to own it. Liam sat on the floor of the storage room, surrounded by evidence of a destroyed life, and felt the full weight of what he'd done. He'd believed Derek's lies. He'd publicly humiliated an innocent woman. He'd failed someone who desperately needed someone to believe in her, just like he'd failed Catherine. His phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. "Derek's leaving town tomorrow, covering his tracks. If you're going to act, it has to be now." Liam photographed every page, then carefully returned the box to its hiding place. As he left the diner, the first light of dawn was breaking over the city. He had evidence now. He had the truth. But first, he needed to find Mariana and pray she'd give him a chance to make this right. Liam found the address through payroll records, a 4th-floor walk-up in a building that should have been condemned decades ago. The hallway smelled of mold and old cooking grease, and water stains bloomed across the ceiling like dark flowers. He knocked softly, aware it was nearly midnight. Mariana opened the door a crack, her eyes red-rimmed and wary. When she saw him, she started to close it. "Please." He put his hand against the frame. "I know about Derek. I know what he did to you." Her hand trembled on the doorknob. "You don't know anything. I know he stole your research. I know he destroyed GreenCycle Innovations and blamed you for the fraud he committed. I know you've been hiding for 3 years because you thought no one would believe you." He met her eyes. "And I know I made everything worse by believing his lies." Mariana's composure cracked. She stepped back, letting him enter. The apartment was tiny, barely 200 square feet, with a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a single room that served as bedroom and living space. Sophia slept on a thin mattress in the corner, her small body curled under a worn blanket. The walls were damp, the single window covered with plastic to keep out drafts. But what caught Liam's attention were the papers scattered across the floor: documents, research notes, printed emails, all organized in careful piles around Mariana like a fort of evidence she'd been too afraid to use. "I was trying to decide," she said quietly, "whether to run again or finally fight back. Let me see them." When she hesitated, he added, "Please, let me help you do this right." Mariana knelt and gathered the papers with shaking hands. "This is everything. The original research, the patent applications with my signature, the bank transfers Derek made while using my credentials." She handed him a folder. "This one has the emails where he threatened me if I didn't sign over my shares." Liam sat on the floor beside her and began reading. With each page, his anger built, at Derek's methodical cruelty, at the system that had failed to protect her, at himself for not seeing through the lies sooner. "He altered transaction dates," Liam said, pointing to a document. "Made it look like you were withdrawing company funds, but the actual transfers went to an account he controlled. I tried to tell the investigators, but he had lawyers. I was pregnant, alone, and terrified." Mariana's voice was barely a whisper. "I lost my home, my company, my reputation. The only thing I managed to save was my research and my daughter. During your pregnancy," Liam pressed his palm against his forehead, the weight of her suffering crushing him. "You were carrying Sophia while he was destroying your life. I thought about fighting. Every day for 3 years I thought about it." She looked at her sleeping daughter. "But he said he'd make sure I lost her too, that I'd be branded an unfit mother, a criminal. So I hid. Worked jobs where no one asked questions. Kept my head down and prayed he'd forget about me. But he didn't forget. He never forgets." Mariana's laugh was bitter. "The moment I showed up at the diner, he knew. He's been waiting for an excuse to finish what he started." Liam reached for another folder and froze. Inside were her original formulas, complex bioprocessing equations that transformed food waste into nutritional compounds. It was brilliant work, revolutionary even, the kind of innovation that could change industries. "This is yours," he said, awe creeping into his voice. "All of this. The patents, the research, the breakthrough, it's all you. Tell that to Derek. He's already sold it to 3 different companies using modified versions." Her hands clenched. "He built an empire on my work while I served coffee." A small voice interrupted them. "Mommy?" Sophia sat up, rubbing her eyes, her gaze landing on Liam with cautious hope. "Does he believe you now?" Mariana looked away, unable to answer. The fear of disappointment was written across her face. "Yes." Liam's voice was firm, certain. "I believe her, and I'm going to prove she's innocent." Sophia's face lit up, but Mariana's filled with tears. "You can't," she whispered. "He's too powerful. He's done this before, and he'll do it again, and I can't survive another." A knock at the door made them all freeze. Daniel Miller stood in the hallway, carrying a laptop case and wearing an expression of grim determination. "Sorry for the late hour," he said, stepping inside, "but I've got something you need to see. Former employees from GreenCycle, 5 of them, willing to testify that Derek forged documents and manipulated financial records. They've been scared to come forward, but when they heard Mariana might finally fight back, they volunteered." He opened his laptop, showing them recorded video testimonies. Each person told the same story: Derek's manipulation, his threats, his systematic theft of Mariana's work. "This is enough," Daniel said. "Combined with the documents and the evidence of his current fraud at the diner, we can destroy him." Mariana stood, trembling. "If we do this and lose, you won't lose." Liam stood too, facing her. "Not this time. I have resources, connections, and a legal team that will make sure the truth comes out. But I need you to trust me. I know I haven't earned it, but I'm asking anyway." She studied his face, searching for something. "Why? Why would you risk your reputation for someone like me?" "Because you deserve justice. Because Sophia deserves a mother who doesn't have to hide. And because I've already failed one woman I could have helped." His throat tightened. I won't fail another. The silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility and fear. Finally, Mariana nodded. Okay, she whispered. Okay, let's fight. Sophia wrapped her arms around her mother's legs, and for the first time in 3 years, Mariana looked like she might actually believe she could win. Daniel worked through the night, organizing evidence into an airtight timeline: original contracts, patent applications, bank records, video testimonies, email chains, every piece of Derek's fraud laid out in chronological order, impossible to refute. This is prosecution-level documentation, Daniel said, reviewing the final dossier. He won't be able to talk his way out of this. Liam made calls, his legal team, his publicist, board members of Davenport Foods who owed him favors. By dawn, he'd secured something Derek would never expect: an emergency shareholder meeting at the annual charity gala, where Manhattan's elite would watch Derek's empire crumble in real time. You're sure about this? Liam's attorney asked. Public exposure is risky. If any detail is wrong, every detail is correct. Liam's voice was steel, and it needs to be public. Derek built his reputation on destroying hers quietly. We're going to restore it the same way, where everyone can see. Across town, Derek sat in his new office, recently promoted to regional manager, reviewing contracts that would expand his influence across 3 states. He'd already started erasing digital traces of his sabotage at the diner, confident that Mariana had fled again like she always did. His phone buzzed with an invitation to the Davenport Foods Gala. Special presentation from the CEO. Derek smiled. Probably an award or recognition for his management success. He had no idea what was coming. Nora Davenport arrived at Mariana's apartment that afternoon, carrying garment bags and determination. You're not facing those vultures in your waitress uniform, she said, laying out an elegant dress. You're going to walk in there looking like the accomplished scientist you are. Mariana stared at the clothes, simple but expensive, professional without being showy. Mrs. Davenport, I can't accept. You can, and you will. Nora's voice was gentle but firm. That man took your dignity. Tonight you're taking it back. Sophia appeared from behind her mother, holding a piece of paper. I made this for you, Mommy. It was a drawing, simple crayon figures holding hands. Mariana in the middle, Sophia on one side, Liam on the other. Above them she'd written in careful letters, family. Mariana's breath caught. Baby, we're not. But we could be. Sophia looked up with absolute certainty. He's going to help us, I know it. Nora smiled. Children see truth more clearly than adults. Maybe you should listen to her. As evening approached, Mariana organized her evidence folders with shaking hands. She'd faced Derek's cruelty before and lost everything. The thought of standing in front of Manhattan's elite, exposing her humiliation publicly, made her chest tighten with panic. I can't breathe, she gasped, sitting down hard on the edge of the mattress. Liam, who'd arrived to drive them to the gala, knelt in front of her. Look at me. When she did, he continued, if you freeze up there, I'll speak for you. If you forget what to say, Daniel has backup. If you need to leave, we leave together. You are not alone in this. But what if? No what ifs. His voice was steady, anchoring. Derek controlled your narrative for 3 years. Tonight, you control it. And I promise you, he will face consequences. Daniel arrived with the final presentation loaded on a tablet. I've triple-checked everything. There are no legal loopholes, no technicalities he can exploit. The evidence is bulletproof. Derek, meanwhile, was putting on his tuxedo, practicing his acceptance speech in the mirror. He'd already planned his next move, a consulting position with a food conglomerate, using the connections he'd built and the stolen research he'd sold. Life was good. He noticed his phone had several missed calls from his lawyer, but ignored them. Probably just standard contract reviews. Nothing that couldn't wait until after his moment of triumph. At 7 p.m., Liam's car pulled up outside the apartment building. Mariana emerged wearing Nora's dress, her hair pulled back, looking nothing like the broken waitress who'd fled the diner 3 days ago. She looked like what she was, a brilliant scientist about to reclaim her life. Sophia held her hand tight. You look like a princess, Mommy. I feel like I'm going to throw up, Mariana admitted. That's courage, Nora said from the front seat. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. The car merged into Manhattan traffic, heading toward the Plaza Hotel where the gala was being held. In the back seat, Mariana closed her eyes and tried to steady her breathing. Tonight, the truth would finally come out. And Derek Holt had no idea his carefully constructed empire was about to collapse. The Plaza Hotel ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and Manhattan's elite. Derek Holt worked the room with practiced charm, accepting congratulations on his recent promotion, completely unaware that his world was about to detonate. The lights dimmed as Liam Davenport took the stage. Derek smiled, expecting a standard corporate presentation. His smile faltered when Mariana walked up beside Liam, wearing an elegant dress and carrying a folder thick with documents. "Ladies and gentlemen," Liam's voice carried across the silent ballroom. "Tonight's presentation isn't what you were expecting, but it's necessary." He gestured to the screen behind him. 3 years ago, a brilliant food scientist named Mariana Reyes co-founded Green Cycle Innovations, a company developing revolutionary waste-to-nutrition technology. Her work could have changed the industry. The first slide appeared, Mariana's original patent applications, her signature clear and documented. Instead, her business partner systematically destroyed her. Forged documents, falsified financial records, stole her research and sold it while she fled pregnant and alone. Liam's eyes found Derek in the crowd. "That partner is here tonight. Derek Holt, would you please stand?" Derek's face had gone white. He remained seated, frozen. "No?" Liam continued. "Then let me show everyone why you're so reluctant." The screen filled with side-by-side comparisons, original documents with Mariana's work, and altered versions with Derek's name replacing hers. Bank transfers, forged signatures, email chains showing his manipulation. "This is ridiculous." Derek finally found his voice, standing abruptly. "That woman is a convicted criminal. She's manipulating you, Mr. Davenport, just like she manipulated everyone at Green Cycle." "I was never convicted." Mariana's voice was quiet but steady. "Because the charges were fabricated. Every single one." Daniel Miller stepped forward from the side of the stage, a tablet in his hands. "I'm Daniel Miller, investigative journalist. For 3 years, I've been documenting Derek Holt's fraud. This video contains testimonies from 5 former Green Cycle employees." The screen switched to the first testimony. A middle-aged woman appeared, her face earnest. "Derek Holt ordered me to alter financial records and backdate transactions to make it look like Mariana was embezzling. When I refused, he fired me and threatened to destroy my career if I talked." 4 more testimonies followed, each one damning, each one corroborating the same story. "You're showing doctored footage," Derek shouted, his composure cracking. "She's paying people to lie. Then explain these." Mariana stepped forward, her hands trembling, but her voice growing stronger. "Bank transfer on March 15th, 2022, $50,000 from the Green Cycle account to your personal account. You logged it under my credentials." She pulled up another document. "Email dated April 3rd where you threatened to bury me if I didn't sign over my shares. I have dates, amounts, and digital fingerprints for every fraudulent transaction." She continued, her voice rising. "You stole my research. You sold my patents. You destroyed my reputation. And then you tried to do it all over again at the diner." Nora Davenport stood from her seat in the front row. "I witnessed Derek Holt threatening Mariana just 5 days ago. He manipulated my son with false reports, planted evidence, and attempted to frame an innocent woman for crimes he committed." The murmur of the crowd grew louder. Shareholders were pulling out phones, checking facts, their faces darkening with understanding. This wasn't just personal vendetta. This was corporate fraud that could expose them all to legal liability. "This is insane." Derek backed toward the exit. "You can't prove any of this." "Actually, we can." Liam's voice was cold. "The SEC has already been provided with all documentation. As of 6 p.m. tonight, they've opened a formal investigation into your activities, including the 3 companies you sold Mariana's stolen research to." Derek's face shifted from panic to rage. He lunged toward the stage, security immediately moving to intercept him. "You bitch! You were nothing before me. I made you. You destroyed me." Mariana's voice cut through his shouting. "But I survived. And now everyone knows the truth." Security guards surrounded Derek, gripping his arms as he struggled. Camera flashes exploded throughout the ballroom. Reporters who'd been invited for a puff piece about charity now had a scandal that would dominate headlines for weeks. "Mr. Holt, you're under arrest," a police officer said, stepping forward with handcuffs. "Federal fraud charges. You have the right to remain." "I'll bury all of you," Derek screamed as they cuffed him. "My lawyers will destroy." but his threats were drowned out by the chaos. Reporters shouting questions, shareholders demanding answers, camera flashes turning the scene into a strobe-lit nightmare. At the side of the stage, Sophia stood holding her drawing, watching the man who'd hurt her mother being led away in handcuffs. She looked up at Nora, who'd stayed beside her throughout. "Is Mommy safe now?" she asked. Nora knelt down, her eyes bright. "Yes, sweetheart. Your mother is finally safe." On stage, Liam stood beside Mariana as Derek was escorted out. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said into the microphone, his voice firm and clear, "let me be absolutely certain you understand. Mariana Reyes is innocent. She is a victim of systematic fraud and manipulation. And as of tonight, Davenport Foods is committed to ensuring she receives every resource necessary to rebuild what was stolen from her." The ballroom erupted, some in applause, others in shocked conversation. But through it all, Mariana stood tall, tears streaming down her face, finally vindicated after 3 years of hiding. Derek's shouts echoed from the hallway as police led him away, and Mariana felt something she hadn't felt in years. Free. Mariana's legs nearly gave out as she left the stage. The adrenaline that had carried her through the confrontation was draining away, leaving her shaking and breathless. Liam's hand steadied her elbow, guiding her to a quiet corner away from the chaos. "You did it," he said softly. "You stood up there and took back everything he stole." She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her heart hammer. "I can't believe it's over. I keep waiting for him to appear, to find some new way to—" "It's over." Liam turned her to face him. "I know I failed you. I believed his lies. I judged you without listening, and I hurt you when you needed someone to believe in you. I want to make that right. Every single part of it." Mariana looked up at him, vulnerability raw in her eyes. "I don't know if I can trust anyone again, not fully. He destroyed that part of me. Then don't trust me yet." His voice was gentle. "Let me earn it, day by day, choice by choice, until you believe that not everyone will betray you." Before she could respond, small arms wrapped around both their legs. Sophia had run from Nora's side, her drawing clutched in one hand, tears of relief streaming down her face. "We won, Mommy! We won!" Mariana dropped to her knees, gathering her daughter close, and for the first time in 3 years, she let herself cry without fear. Liam knelt beside them, his hand resting on Sophia's back, and something shifted in the air between them, something tentative but real. Daniel appeared, his phone in hand. "Mariana, you need to see this." He showed her his screen, where news alerts were already spreading. Tech fraud exposed. Food scientist vindicated after years of false accusations. Derek Holt arrested. Corporate scandal rocks Manhattan elite. "It's everywhere," Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. "Your name is being cleared in real time." Nora approached, her elegant composure softened by genuine warmth. "You were magnificent up there, standing in front of all those people facing the man who hurt you. That took extraordinary courage." "I was terrified," Mariana admitted. "Courage isn't the absence of fear, dear. It's speaking truth despite it." Nora squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you, and I'm honored to have witnessed it." Mariana's phone, which she'd silenced for the evening, buzzed insistently. She glanced at the screen. 15 missed calls, dozens of texts. Former colleagues from GreenCycle, people who'd believed Derek's lies and turned their backs on her, were reaching out. "Mariana, I'm so sorry. I should have listened. We were wrong about you. Please forgive us. Your work was brilliant. We should have fought for you." The apologies poured in, each one a small piece of restoration. Mariana read them with trembling hands, years of isolation finally cracking open. "What happens now?" she asked, looking at Liam. "I have my name back, but I don't have a career. I don't have a home that isn't falling apart. I'd like to help with that," Liam said carefully. "Davenport Foods has resources, legal support, financial backing, connections in the industry. I want to offer you everything you need to restart your research, no strings attached." Mariana's instinct was to refuse, to maintain the independence she'd clung to through poverty and shame. But then she looked at Sophia, who deserved stability and safety, and she felt something inside her shift. "I'll accept help," she said slowly, "but I need to rebuild on my own terms. I can't let anyone else control my work or my life." "I wouldn't want you to." Liam's respect was evident. "You're brilliant, Mariana. The world needs your mind working freely, not hidden away serving coffee." "Can we take a picture?" Sophia asked suddenly, holding up her drawing. "All 3 of us?" so I can remember tonight. Daniel volunteered as photographer. They stood together, Mariana in the center, Sophia beaming on one side, Liam on the other. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, Sophia smiled without shadows in her eyes. As the flash went off, Mariana felt something release in her chest. The fear that had governed every decision for 3 years was finally losing its grip. Derek was in custody. Her name was cleared. Her daughter was safe. The fight was over. "What do we do now?" Sophia asked, still holding both their hands. Mariana looked down at her daughter, then up at Liam, then out at the ballroom where her vindication had just played out in front of Manhattan's elite. A small, genuine smile crossed her face. Now? She took a deep breath. Now we start over. For real this time. The cameras were still flashing, reporters still shouting questions, but none of it mattered. In this moment, surrounded by people who'd fought for her truth, Mariana Reyes finally allowed herself to believe in the possibility of a future without fear. And for the first time in 3 years, that future looked bright. 3 weeks after the gala, Liam stood outside Mariana's apartment door, holding grocery bags. He'd texted first this time, asking permission, learning the boundaries she needed to feel safe. She opened the door wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back, looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. "You didn't have to bring all this. I wanted to." He set the bags on her small counter, fresh vegetables, quality proteins, things he'd noticed she never bought for herself. "Consider it an investment in the brilliant mind that's going to change the food industry." Mariana smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. She didn't feel the burning shame that charity used to bring. This felt different, like partnership. "Mr. Liam!" Sophia appeared from behind a blanket fort, holding a piece of paper. "I made this for you." The drawing showed a tall figure in a suit with "Important Friend" written above it in careful letters. Liam's throat tightened as he knelt to her level. "This is beautiful, Sophia. Thank you. You helped Mommy. That makes you important." Her logic was simple, absolute. Liam looked up at Mariana, who was watching the interaction with cautious warmth. "Actually, I wanted to ask you both something. Would you like to visit my penthouse this weekend? I have a rooftop garden, and my mother insists on meeting you properly. Not at a gala. Just as people." Mariana hesitated, old instincts screaming to keep distance, maintain walls. But Sophia's hopeful expression made her push past the fear. "We'd like that," she said softly. Saturday afternoon, they arrived at Liam's building, glass and steel reaching toward the sky, so different from their crumbling walk-up. The elevator ride was silent, Sophia pressing her nose against the glass wall, watching the city shrink below. The penthouse doors opened to reveal Nora Davenport in a simple cardigan, not the designer gowns Mariana associated with her. She'd set out sandwiches, fruit, and lemonade on the rooftop garden. Nothing pretentious, just welcoming. "I'm so glad you came," Nora said, embracing Mariana like an old friend. "Please make yourselves at home." Mariana stepped onto the rooftop and caught her breath. The garden was an oasis 30 stories up, flowering plants, comfortable seating, and a small play area where a 7-year-old boy was building with blocks. "Timothy," Liam called, "come meet our guests." His son approached shyly, and within minutes, Sophia had joined him in constructing an elaborate block tower. Their laughter filled the space, natural and easy. Liam guided Mariana to a bench overlooking the city. For a moment, they just sat in comfortable silence. "I failed my wife," he said finally. "Catherine struggled with depression after Timothy was born, and instead of listening, I tried to fix everything. I threw money at the problem, hired the best doctors, but I never just heard her." His voice cracked. "She took her own life 2 weeks after our son's first birthday." Mariana's hand found his. "I'm sorry. I don't want to make the same mistakes." He turned to face her. "With you, I want to do everything differently. I want to listen. I want to respect your boundaries. I want to earn your trust instead of demanding it." "Derek taught me not to trust," Mariana admitted. "He made promises, said he loved me, then destroyed everything I was. For 3 years, I believed I was better off alone." "Are you still better off alone?" She watched Sophia and Timothy playing, heard their carefree laughter, and felt something shift in her chest. "I don't know yet, but I'm starting to think maybe I don't have to be." Liam reached for her hand, his touch gentle, asking permission. "I don't want to rush anything. I don't want you to feel pressured or obligated. I just want the chance to show you that not everyone will hurt you." Mariana looked at their joined hands, feeling the warmth of connection she'd denied herself for so long. Slowly, carefully, she smiled. "Okay," she whispered. "We can try." It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't a fairy tale moment. But it was real, built on honesty, respect, and the tentative hope that maybe, just maybe, she could open her heart again. Nora watched from the doorway, a knowing smile on her face. She'd seen her son hollow and broken for 3 years. Now, watching him sit beside Mariana with gentle patience, she saw him coming back to life. "Mommy, look," Sophia called. "Timothy's teaching me about buildings." The two children were absorbed in their game, already comfortable with each other in the way only children could be. "They're good together," Liam observed. "So are we," Mariana said, surprising herself with the admission. The afternoon sun cast golden light across the rooftop garden. Below them, the city hummed with life. But up here, in this moment, two broken people were carefully building something new, not from desperation or need, but from choice and respect. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Mariana believed that maybe love didn't have to end in betrayal. Maybe with the right person, it could heal instead of harm. She squeezed Liam's hand, and he squeezed back. It was enough. For now, it was more than enough. 6 months later, Mariana stood in front of a modest office space in Brooklyn, her name etched on the glass door, Reyes Food Innovation Consulting. Daniel had helped her navigate the business formation, and she'd used the settlement from Derek's fraud conviction to fund the startup. "It's perfect," she said, running her fingers over the lettering. Inside, her old research covered the walls, reclaimed, restored, and ready to change the industry. She'd already secured 3 clients interested in sustainable food technology, and industry publications were calling her a pioneer. Liam had made good on his promise. Davenport Foods announced an ethical partnership with her consultancy, providing resources and credibility without demanding control. The press release went viral, a story of redemption, justice, and corporate responsibility. "Mommy, my new school has a science lab." Sophia burst through the door, her backpack bouncing. She attended a private academy now, funded by a scholarship Nora had mysteriously arranged. "And the teacher said I can do a project on food waste." "That's wonderful, baby." Mariana pulled her daughter close, marveling at the transformation. Sophia no longer flinched at loud noises or hoarded food. She laughed freely, made friends easily, and talked about the future with excitement instead of fear. "I have 2 safe places now," Sophia had told her teacher recently. Home with Mommy, and home with Liam and Timothy. The trial had been difficult but necessary. Mariana testified against Derek in a packed courtroom, detailing every manipulation, every threat, every stolen piece of her life. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before finding him guilty on all counts: fraud, theft of intellectual property, perjury. He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. The media coverage shifted dramatically. Articles that once might have portrayed her as a scandal now celebrated her resilience. From Waitress to Innovator, How Mariana Reyes Rebuilt After Betrayal, read one headline. The Scientist Who Refused to Stay Silent proclaimed another. Mariana read them with surreal detachment. She wasn't a hero or a victim anymore. She was just herself, flawed, strong, and finally free. One evening, Liam arrived at her new apartment, larger now, with actual bedrooms and windows that didn't leak, carrying takeout and a nervous expression. "I have something to ask you," he said after dinner, while Sophia and Timothy played video games in the next room. Mariana's heart skipped. "Okay, we've been doing this for 6 months, taking it slow, building trust, learning each other." He took her hands. "And I don't want to rush you, but I also don't want to pretend I don't know what I feel. I'm in love with you, Mariana. I love your strength, your brilliance, the way you've rebuilt yourself. I love watching you with Sophia, seeing you reclaim your dreams." He paused. "I'd like to make this official, if you're ready." Mariana's eyes filled with tears. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Derek said he loved me too, and then I'm not Derek." Liam's voice was firm but gentle. "I will never try to control you, or diminish you, or take what's yours. Your work is yours. Your life is yours. I just want to be part of it, if you'll have me." She thought about the past 6 months, how he'd kept every promise, respected every boundary, celebrated every victory, how he'd taught Timothy to treat Sophia as an equal, how he'd never once made her feel less than brilliant. Yes, she whispered, but I need to keep my independence. My company, my decisions, my autonomy, he finished. I know, I'm not asking you to give up anything. I'm asking if we can build something together while still being ourselves. She kissed him then, soft and certain, and felt the last piece of Derek's shadow finally lift. Sophia appeared in the doorway, holding a new drawing. This one showed 3 figures holding hands in front of the old Sunrise Diner, a tribute to where their story began. I made this for your office, Liam, she said. So you remember. Liam accepted it with reverence, and the next day it hung in a frame beside his desk at Davenport Foods headquarters. Executives would ask about it, and he'd tell them the truth. It was a reminder that people weren't always what they seemed, that judgment without understanding was cruelty, and that sometimes the most important thing you could do was listen. A year after the gala, Mariana stood in her expanded office, watching her team work on a revolutionary project that would reduce food waste by 40%. News crews were coming to interview her. Universities wanted her to lecture. Her life had transformed completely. She picked up her phone and texted Liam, "Remember when I was hiding behind dumpsters?" His response was immediate. "Remember when I was too blind to see you?" She smiled. "We've come a long way, we have. Dinner tonight? My place or yours?" "Ours," she typed back, and felt warmth spread through her chest at the word. Outside her window, the city hummed with possibility. Somewhere across town, Derek sat in a cell, his empire reduced to ashes. But Mariana didn't think about him anymore. She thought about Sophia's laughter, about Liam's gentle consistency, about the work she was finally free to do. Her name was cleared. Her life was rebuilt. And for the first time since Derek had destroyed her world, Mariana Reyes could breathe without fear. The story that began with a child eating scraps behind a diner had ended with justice, love, and the fierce satisfaction of truth finally told. And it was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe now so you never miss our next powerful story. Comment below, what would you have done in Mariana's situation? Your engagement keeps these stories alive. Until next time, remember, truth always finds its way to the light.